Hello, welcome to Wikipedia World Video. In our previous lesson, we mentioned the Holy Roman Empire. We have said why it was called the Roman Empire. But why was it called the Holy Empire? I guess because the popes who controlled it were considered holy men and representatives of God on earth. One of their official titles has been Vicarius Filii Dei in Latin, which means representative of the Son of God, that is, representative of Jesus Christ on earth. It was a common belief in those times that Pope was the sole and most holy representative of God, and that Apostle Peter, one of the 12 disciples of Jesus Christ, was the first Pope. However, the truth is that nowhere in the Bible and other ancient written historical sources is there any statement about Apostle Peter ever being in Rome, let alone be the first Roman Pope. We could say that the ancient Roman Empire actually never did really cease to exist, not even the Western Roman Empire, but continued to exist through other European kingdoms, such as the German Holy Roman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire was formed in the 10th century, precisely in 962, when the German king Otto I, known also as Otto the Great, was crowned by Pope as the first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. It is no wonder it was called Roman Empire, both from previously said reasons and from the fact that the empire included territories of all Germany and North Italy together with Rome itself. It was only a sort of restored Western Roman Empire and successor of the former Frankish Empire of Charlemagne. The Roman popes were trying to restore the ancient Roman Empire and to control the whole world through their church and religion and through conquests of German kings. This was one of the reasons why there was a constant dispute between the Roman popes and the German emperors on one side and the Byzantine or Eastern Roman emperors on the other side. The rulers of the remaining Eastern Roman Empire were also always trying to restore the boundaries of the ancient Roman Empire, almost in the same way papacy was trying to do in the west of Europe. However, after Justinian's attempt of restoring empire in the 6th century, none of the succeeding Eastern Roman emperors was able to accomplish that task. Furthermore, most of the time, Eastern Roman Empire had to defend itself from numerous enemies: Germans, Huns, Avars and other Turkic tribes, Slavic tribes, Persians, Arabians, and so on. In the beginning, there were times when Roman popes and Eastern Roman emperors were trying to restore the Roman Empire together, and even considered to reunite Western and Eastern Christianity, that is, Roman Catholicism and Orthodox Christianity, after the break of the Union in the 11th century. However, they were only trying to do that in the times of danger for their own countries, when other nations were invading their lands, such as in the case of the Arabian invasion of Europe. The very moment the enemy was defeated, they would separate again and start a new conflict against each other. Moreover, on many occasions, the Roman popes and their German and other Western European rulers and military leaders tried to exploit war crises and hopeless situations in which Eastern Roman emperors found themselves many times during the past. The same thing was in the case of other European medieval kingdoms that were supported by the Eastern Roman Empire. There were times when Western European armies sent by popes were openly trying to destroy the Eastern Roman Empire. For instance, Papal Crusade armies attacked Eastern Roman Empire at the beginning of the 13th century, conquered their capital Constantinople, and held it for more than 50 years. Although their attempt of conquering the Eastern Roman Empire and forming a new world empire of Rome was unsuccessful, and although the Eastern Roman Empire was restored after 50 years of their reign, it was never as powerful again as it was before, and could not restore its former influence. In any case, the dream of forming a world empire, that is, reviving the ancient Roman Empire, was not accomplished during those ages. Now let us get back to the 10th century and the story about the Holy Roman Empire of Germany. Among other matters, it was the age of wars between the German rulers and the new invading tribe that came to Europe from Asia, the Hungarians. Actually, Hungarians came to Eastern and Central Europe at the end of the 9th century, around 896. Hungarians, or Magyars as they were also called, were an Asian nomadic tribe, probably of mixed Turkic origins, just as Avars and Huns before them. The name Hungary is most probably of Turkic origin, while the name Magyar is derived from the name of their leader called Magyar. According to a legend, Magyar was a descendant of Attila the Hun himself. Therefore, Hungarians, Avars, and Huns were of the same origins, language, culture, warfare, and even the place of habitation in Europe, Pannonia. However, before they settled in Pannonia, Hungarian tribes were known for their pillages and raidings of unprotected villages and smaller cities throughout Europe. Just like all Turkic and Mongol nomadic tribes, Hungarians used horses while attacking the European settlements. They were all skilled horsemen who spread panic all over the continent. The Hungarians fought against the Germans, that is, against the Holy Roman Empire, among many others. Hungarians were not able to lay siege on larger cities and fortresses, since they did not use war machines, but mainly performed raids and small-scale invasions. Nonetheless, they presented a huge problem for neighboring nations and a grave danger for the empire. The previously mentioned German ruler and the first Holy Roman Emperor, Otto the Great, was the one who stopped Hungarians from attacking his realm, though he did not become Roman Emperor yet at that time. He defeated them in the Battle of Lechfeld in 955. It was a decisive victory, after which Hungarians stopped attacking the neighboring nations and retreated to their settlement in Pannonia, where Slavic tribes lived before them, and where Avars and Huns, their predecessors, had also been settled. On the other hand, Hungarians continued to raid South European, mostly Slavic settlements. They did so until the very beginning of the 11th century, when they accepted Christianity, that is, when the Hungarian ruler Vaik was baptized. He was renamed Stephen, and is now known in history as King Stephen I. Thus the Hungarians were defeated by Germans, or the Holy Roman Empire of Germany, and were Christianized by Roman Catholic priests. We mention this because the newly formed Hungarian kingdom eventually joined the union with German kingdoms in later centuries, and thus became a sort of continuation of the Holy Roman Empire, or more precisely to say, the restored Western Roman Empire, governed by popes from Rome. Before we say more about Roman papacy aims, the church and religion during medieval ages, the attempts of restoring the Roman world empire, and the Crusade Wars, in which both Hungarian and German kings participated, we must say first something about one nation that was similar to Hungarians in their warfare in Europe, and was also an important and integral part of the papal crusade armies. Which nation was it? It was the Norsemen. They were primarily known as Norsemen, or peoples from north, though one of their famous names was the Vikings. They were the ancestors of the modern-day Norwegians, Swedish, and Danes. Actually, it would be more precise to say that they were North Germanic tribes who lived in the north of Europe, in the territories of the modern-day Denmark and southern parts of Norway and Sweden. Their ancestors were probably the first people who came to North Europe after the Ice Age and settled there. That is, after the ice receded from those lands and the ice climate became more bearable cold climate, though only more bearable to the light-skinned North Europeans. As we have said, these Norsemen or Vikings were similar to Hungarians in respect to their warfare and raiding. They were attacking and pillaging unprotected villages and smaller settlements in many parts of Europe, only with the difference that they did not use horses like Hungarians, but boats and ships, since they were very skilled in seafaring. This skill of theirs is best demonstrated by the fact that Vikings are considered the first European settlers of Iceland, Greenland, and North America. They settled those lands during the 9th and the 10th century. That would mean that the Vikings practically discovered America almost 500 years before Christopher Columbus, who is credited for discovering the continent. So Vikings colonized many islands in the North, Iceland, Greenland, and North American coasts, as well as many European lands, from Eastern Europe to Great Britain. They settled in West France as well, where the region of Normandy was named after them. Vikings also conquered England in the 11th century. It was the famous Norman conquest of Britain. They even got to southern Europe, where they formed the Kingdom of Sicily, also during the 11th and 12th century. Some of them were eventually employed as mercenaries against Arabs and other nations. Roman popes often used them as mercenaries against Eastern Roman Empire, or they attacked its territories on their own, since most of the Viking kings and military leaders by the 11th century already accepted Christianity, that is Roman Catholicism, as their new religion. They accepted the authority of papacy as all other Western European nations did during the Middle Ages. That was why exactly Viking or Norman kings were the leaders of the first Crusade wars, initiated by popes. Crusade wars, or crusades, were a series of wars for conquering the ancient city of Jerusalem and Israel, the Holy Land, and the Eastern Roman Empire itself, as we shall see. Most historians consider it to have been merely a war on religion, Christians against Muslims, but that is not the whole truth. Although Christians did fight against Muslims, the religion itself, either Islam or Christianity, was not the cause of those wars, which lasted for centuries. You will find out more about the Crusades in our next lesson. Thank you for watching Edupedia World Video.